All right, let's just take you out of that particular court case there, the Senzomiwa murder trial. Colonel Steyn still on the stand. He's going to testify basically about cell phone evidence. Let's take you to news just in. 2 people have been shot dead in KwaMashu in KwaZulu-Natal. The incident happened at the A section men's hostel. Let's go to senior reporter Dasen Thathiah, who's on the scene for us at the moment to give us more details. Dasen, you just letting us know a few moments ago that this happened. What do we know? What are the guards being shot at for?
Maseko, unfortunately, it is another day and another crime scene here, and this time in KwaMashu, as you correctly said, at the men's hostel. So I'm standing just in front of that cordon tape that's been put up by police officers. We're going to stay on a wide shot because as we speak, the bodies of those victims are uncovered, and police and investigators are still processing the scene. But the initial reports that we received a short while ago spoke to exactly what transpired here. We're told that these 2 security guards were escorting technicians that were working on a cell phone tower, or due to be working on a cell phone tower that's not far from where I'm standing now. And it was during that time that they were then ambushed by criminals that were around the area, either lying in wait or who were opportunistically able to approach them when they were here. And the only thing, it appears, that was taken from them were their guns. I'm told that they were carrying handguns as well. Those were taken, and it appears that this seems to be the motive behind some of these crimes, where security officers, for example, enter an area like this and they are attacked purely because criminals want to get their hands on their guns. So although this is still very early in that investigation, we understand at this point that at least 17 shots were fired at both of those security guards that are now sadly lying dead not far from where I'm standing. So this is an investigation that is still underway. Police are also trying to track the suspects that may have been involved in the shooting. And a short while ago, I did speak to some of those that are working in the area, trying to locate those that may have been behind the shooting.
And Dasen, the technicians that they were escorting in that area, clearly they were escorting the technicians because the area isn't safe.
That's right. So this seems to be the way they operate here, especially if technicians are coming not just here to KwaMashu but other areas as well. There is a certain risk that is involved with working on these cell phone towers. So security guards often escort those that are responsible for these towers just to ensure that they are safe. But in this area, when we talk about the KwaMashu hostel, Maseko, you'll also know that it is an area that we have covered many such shootings at. There have been mass murders that have taken place here. There have been robberies. And what it generally appears to be is that criminals use this area because of how congested it is as a hideout and as a location in which they can commit these crimes and are safely able to get away or hide out, because there are 2 parts to the KwaMashu hostel. There is the hostel itself, and there's also the informal side of it. So what all of that really does is that it creates an environment which is highly conducive to this type of crime, to commit a crime here, to commit these murders, and then try to hide out or get away really fast and hide away from police that respond to these types of scenes.
And Dasen, just yesterday you were reporting in Port Shepstone where there was another shooting there. I believe 4 people dead on that particular scene. Now 2 more today. Clearly, police aren't able to actually combat crime in KZN.
These shootings are really a problem, and they have been for many months now, Maseko. You know that we have covered several of them, and in most instances, it's more than one person that is being shot. But if we had to again talk about KwaMashu specifically, there was just last night a cash and transit robbery that took place in this area. Fortunately, in that incident, the security guards were unharmed, but the vehicle they were traveling in the attackers confronted them and they blew up that vehicle. There was very little left of the rear area that actually carries the money, and that happening just last night. There's still no word on whether those suspects have been arrested. But as you rightly said, it does appear that police do need to do more to try to combat these types of crimes that are popping up in so to speak, in this matter, in broad daylight, and especially in public areas. Let me just look at the number of people that you see around here. And this is generally as busy as you see it now. There's a lot of foot traffic. There are lots of taxis that are traveling up and down this road. And there are a large number of people that occupy this space. And a shooting like this taking place just meters away from where I'm standing.
And I mean, there was an imbizo there in that area, Dasen, not so long ago, I think if I'm not mistaken, around March in KwaMashu, and it was a crime imbizo. So clearly no solutions really being found.
I think it's such a complex problem and such a deep issue that exists here. It's because of all of these various factors that I'm talking about that contribute to that. That imbizo is one of several attempts that have been made, and that one was led by the police station here and the the station commander in this area to try and bring these various parties together to make some kind of change. But obviously, that won't happen overnight because this has been an ongoing problem. This has been an area which almost always features in the crime stats in the top 5 when it comes to murders, when it comes to rapes. So this has been a problem that has existed. And it's for a number of reasons. We've seen visits here from the police minister. We've seen senior police management come here. And they always talk about the factors that influence this. It is the socio-economic issues. It is the issues around lighting. It's around maintenance. It's around accessibility. It's about how is policing actually able to be conducted here when the streets are so narrow, that when you can barely walk through here at night because it's so dark. So there's always been this ongoing struggle, if I could put it that way, between the policing side and between, for example, the municipality, which needs to look after an area like this. And between all of that, criminal elements have found it really easy to commit their crimes in a space like this one.
And Dasen, as you're speaking, I'm actually looking at some of the stories that we've covered here on eNCA about KwaMashu. A very similar, actually the exact incident happened on the 4th of January this year, where 2 security guards escorting technicians were shot and killed in KwaMashu, and one of the technicians were left quite badly injured. This happening once again in about 6 months' time. Clearly an indictment then on police in the area and on Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi as the commissioner.
This is an ongoing problem, and as you rightfully said, in fact, that's not just the only incident. There have been others as well where these security guards have come under attack. But the motive here seems fairly clear, that it is these firearms that they want. In fact, one police officer was telling me, unofficially so, that if people come in here with those firearms, it's almost seen as, to the criminals, as an opportunity that they want to then take, because they will then use these firearms in turn to commit other crimes. So although there have been in the past extra police officers deployed here, I think the problem, as we've constantly been talking about, the problem exists with the proactive side of it, and actually tracking these crimes, or knowing the intelligence behind it, and knowing whether there are people that are going to be lying in wait, whether that informant base, for example, is strong enough to alert police to these crimes that are happening, because the increased visibility and the increased cars alone will not solve these problems. And that's what we've been seeing in other areas as well, where there are crimes committed. And as I mentioned here, we've seen in the past that around election time, for example, there are extra deployments that are sent to the area. But there needs to be, I think, a multifaceted approach that deals with this, not just from the policing side, but also with all of the other role players that are involved in making sure that this area, once and for all, can lose the reputation that is developed over the years of being such a violent hotspot.
And Dasen, you know, I know that you still have to go and investigate a little further, and maybe even speak to any witness who's willing to speak to you, as I see those forensic pathologists are still busy there behind you. But Dasen, there was a particular time during that imbizo where the community leaders raised the fact that they think that there's political interference that also contributes to the high levels of crime in KwaMashu.
And there has been that issue. In fact, we've seen a lot of incidents of political violence that took place here, and you normally see it flare up in and around election time. But that's just one part of it, because on the other side, you know, you have these types of crimes that are being committed. In fact, now if you look behind me, Maseko, I think what you're seeing there speaks to what I mentioned right at the start of this crossing, about how many shots were fired at these security guards. It also tells you about the type of firepower that exists here. And this is the type of brazen type of approach that criminals are taking. You know, they are confronting armed security guards, fighting them on this level. And whenever you see those cones being placed, it always really brings home the level of violence that we experience in a place like this. And it really shows you the type of extent that criminals will go to get what it is that they want. But I digress, Maseko, to go back to your point. Fortunately, in the recent months and recent years, there hasn't been as much of that political violence as we've seen in the past. But despite that, general crime, these robberies, and the high crime rate and high murder rate still exists at the KwaMashu hostel. In fact, so much so that this area that we are in now, is just one part, one fraction of KwaMashu. It influences the crime rate, the crime statistics for the entire area, because there are many parts of this township that are really peaceful, many parts of it where you don't have crimes like this taking place. But the influence of one part of it, this pocket, is far-reaching, and that's what you see in the crime statistics every single year when they come out.
All right, senior reporter Dasen Thathiah live for us there in KwaMashu with breaking news.